Bonkers was a race-style board game designed by Paul J. Gruen and produced by Parker Brothers and later by Milton Bradley. The object was to be the first player to score 12 points by adding instruction cards to the empty spaces in an attempt to move to several scoring stations. The game's slogan was, "It's never the same game twice." Setup. Each game of Bonkers came with the following: a game board, 4 pawns, a stack of cardboard track cards to each of the following back cards 1 through 6, 10, 12 to each of the following ahead cards 1 through 6, 10, 12 to each of the following special cards go to nearest score roll again go to start exchange cards, a scorecard with plastic peg markers, 4 large go to lose cards, 2 dice. The board consisted of a 55-space looping track. Most of these spaces had an outline of a track card next to it, the cards being played throughout the game. There were also 3 score stations, a lose space, 2 track spaces marked go to lose, and 1 space marked back 15. As the original Bonkers was produced in the late 1970s, the board and game pieces accordingly had a disco-style text and motif. When Milton Bradley revived the game in the early 1990s, the board was made to appear as if the entire track and logo were made out of modeling clay. A few humorous caricatures of human faces were placed in the logo and on the board as well. The game was also given a fluorescent color scheme, updated fonts, and different style dice and pawns from the original. Gameplay. The game started with each player being dealt 4 track cards and a large go-to-lose card, and placing their pawns on the scoring space marked start. On a turn, a player rolled the dice, and moved the corresponding number of spaces shown. If the space was empty, the player placed a card in the outline next to that space, if already occupied by a card. The player followed the instructions on that card. A player's turn ended if landing on a space marked score, the space marked lose, or on an unmarked space after playing 1 card. At the end of a turn, the player drew another card, and the next player took his or her turn. Most of the track cards had a number between 1 and 12, as well as the direction for the player to travel. The track was a loop. As pawns traveled counterclockwise along the loop, ahead cards moved the pawn accordingly, and back cards moved clockwise. Other cards included a roll again, go to nearest score, go to start, and exchange cards. If a space was occupied by another pawn, the player rolled again after drawing a new track card. Scoring. The object of the game was to play track cards in a way that directed one's pawn to a score space, upon which the scorekeeper moved that player's peg ahead 1 point. A player could also score by rolling a 12, or by means of entrapment. If the player's pawn ended in a continual loop, that player was said to be trapped, at which point his or her pawn was left on the space at the front of the trap, and the player scored 1 point. The lose space. There was 1 space on the board marked lose. If a player landed on this space, he or she lost 1 point, and his or her turn ended immediately. There were 2 spaces on the backside of the track that also sent the player directly to lose. In addition, each player had a large go-to-lose card at any point in a player's turn. An opponent could use this card against that player to force him or her to go to the lose space immediately. Once a large go-to-lose card was played, it was removed from the game. At no time could a player's score drop below 0. Winning the first player to score 12 points won the game. Rule changes. When Milton Bradley began producing Bonkers, there were several minor rules changes. Cards marked exchange cards could now only be switched with a track card directly to the left or to the right of the exchange card. Entrapment was now referred to as going bonkers. If a player got caught in a loop, he moved his/her pawn ahead to the nearest score space and scored 1 point. The "Go to Nearest Score" card was replaced with a "Go Ahead to Score" card. Other than these small changes, and the cosmetic update to the game, Bonkers remained virtually unchanged from the first version.